Hello and welcome to our season preview here at The Lines, previewing each and every NFL team for the 2024 season. Matt Brown, Stephen Andress coming to you. Guys, absolutely free, each and every one of these previews, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single one. If you want to hit the notification button, then you'll know as soon as these things hit the internet. Today we're going to talk the Miami Dolphins. Stephen, this is a team that I am higher on than I think the market, a team that I think the ceiling is incredibly high. We know that Tua Tagovailoa did get the bag, so he went ahead and got paid, so he is going to be happy in all of this. And you look at a division that, yeah, it's interesting with the top three teams. It's basically two gimmies on the schedule when you play the Patriots. So it's a three-team battle as we look at this Miami Dolphins team to get things going.
So I think I agree with you to an extent that I am higher than market on the Dolphins right now. If you look at kind of the market ratings, they're sitting behind teams like the Lions and the Bills, the Cowboys, even the Jets and the Eagles, even the Bengals with Burrow back healthy. They're still kind of sitting behind them in the market ratings. I'm not sure I agree with that. So it feels like it's a team I'm probably going to be bullish on in the regular season, Matt, but I'm also just trying to figure out what the ceiling is in terms of playoff outcomes with this team, right? With how loaded the AFC is.
Totally understand. 25-1, the best number you're going to find on this team to win the Super Bowl. If we start to go out and look, you can find them in that like a little over 2-1 range to win the East. If you want to go that route with this Miami Dolphins team, sitting at a 9.5 win total, if that's of anything that you're going to be looking at as well. Anthony Weaver, your new defensive coordinator, he comes over from the Ravens. He was coaching the defensive line over there for them in the offseason. They were active, Stephen. It was not a team that was sitting on their hands. They bring in Shaq Barrett at linebacker, Kendall Fuller at corner, Jordan Poyer at safety. They bring in a center in Aaron Brewer. They got a linebacker in Jordan Brooks. They bring in Jonnu Smith as a tight end. So a team that was pretty active in free agency in the draft. They took edge rusher Chop Robinson in the first round. They got an offensive tackle and Patrick Paul in the second round as well. Just a side note, they signed an undrafted free agent named Storm Duck, and that's actually real. I'm not making that up. His name is Storm Duck. So you can go in and check him out. Don't know if he'll make the team or not, but Storm Duck also on the roster here for the Dolphins. So again, if we're just looking at what they did in the offseason, these are some fairly substantial moves in my opinion, because like Jordan Brooks and Kendall Fuller are actual difference makers. Shaq Barrett, if there's anything left in the tank, it could be someone that could contribute. I should add, they also added Odell Beckham as a free agent signing along the way. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but maybe if he could just be a chain mover, Stephen, like maybe he's just a guy that when you need the 3rd and 5, he runs out and runs a 6-yard route. He's got really steady hands and stuff. So maybe he uses his veteran savvy to be able to navigate how to get you those chain moving stuff. But I think the offseason was pretty good for this Dolphins team.
Yeah, everything was going great except for, just quick update. Shaq Barrett did decide to retire, so they aren't going to have Shaq Barrett, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But in terms of the other guys they lost on defense, that was kind of the big question for me. They lose Christian Wilkins and Andrew Van Ginkel. So what's this pass rush going to be? The other guys they have are coming off injuries. They signed Calais Campbell, but he's 38. They still have Chubb and Seiler in terms of pass rushers who had 10-plus sacks a year ago. So on paper here, it is a weakness. I mean, PFF's grading the D-line number 25, the front 7 overall, number 25 by Sharp. The secondary looks awesome, but how much pressure are they going to be under, Matt, if they can't get a consistent pass rush?
Well, they bring in Chop Robinson. They drafted him, right? You still have Chubb, as you mentioned. I think that there is enough maybe there on that defensive line. But that being said, I mean, it is going to have to be much, much better. Jalen Phillips has been really, really good as well for this team. It just seems like as a unit, like individually, they haven't been bad, Steven. It just seems like as a unit, they haven't been able to like collectively be like, oh, that Dolphins defense is badass. And instead it's like, these guys are good on their own, but like, what that being said, Kendall Fuller, the signing there. They're bringing in a dude that was the 7th graded out of 127 qualifying corners, according to Pro Football Focus. So you are bringing in now a real corner opposite Jalen Ramsey. So that's something else. And then on the offensive side, look, Waddle, Hill, Beckham, really, really good trio, no doubt about it. Teron Armstead at tackle is going to be good for you there. They bring in Brewer at center, who was 11th overall out of 36 qualifiers, according to Pro Football Focus. So there are pieces on this line that are good. The problem is there are a couple of holes as well. We know Tua, problems with concussions, trouble with having to try and run and scramble and stuff like that. Hopefully, Stephen, they're teaching him how to just get sacked. You know how we used to get like the Tom Brady self-sack? Like he would just kind of like just crumble in the pocket. Like maybe they can teach Tua how to do that. But I think you and I would both agree the upside for this offense, specifically if they can get a little step forward from some of the guys on the offensive line and Wynn and Jones that were kind of average at best. The average, I mean, the upside is number one offense in the league, like by a mile.
100% agree, and I want to bet on ceiling outcomes with this offense, at least in the regular season. I think Tua 30-1 MVP is viable. I think it's a decent number in this world where all the quarterbacks are at the top of the board. And if you're getting a guy who literally led the league in passing yards last year and was top 5 with 29 touchdowns, despite Miami also having 27 rushing touchdowns from their running backs, what if that just flips a little bit? What if there aren't as many rushing touchdowns this year and Tua gets the red zone touchdowns? I mean, you telling me he can't win MVP at 30-1? I think that's very much in play, especially when we know how much they like to come close to embarrassing inferior teams. I mean, to me, this is the Cowboys of the AFC, right? Like when they play bad teams, they just murder them. And Tyreek Hill, the only reason he didn't win Offensive Player of the Year last year is because he got banged up at the end of the year. And I'll give you one more, I'll give you a bet right away here that I've made, Matt, in terms of this offense and trying to lean into ceiling outcomes. You look at their running backs. Love Devon Achane. I think he is one of, if not the most explosive running backs in the league. Raheem Mostert is another year older. He's 32. Mostert had 18 rushing touchdowns last year in 15 games. Achane had 8 in 11 games and 3 more as a receiver. What if in his second year he gets more of that work? I've bet a half a unit and split it equally between Achane 30-1 to lead the league in rushing touchdowns and 100-1 most touchdowns rushing and receiving combined.
That's an interesting bet for sure. I mean, like he's super explosive player, and you have to assume that you're going to try to get the ball into your playmakers' hands as much as humanly possible. The bet that I made on the Dolphins outside of them to win the division, which I did make a small bet on them to win the division, Stephen. I do like them the best out of the 3 teams that we consider real contenders. But the bet that I actually really like with the Dolphins is last undefeated team. And if you take a look at their schedule, if we honestly believe that they are true AFC contenders, which again, if I'm betting on upside and betting on these defensive additions, I'm going to say that the upside for this team is like competing for the 1 seed, maybe 2 seed, something like that. You get Jacksonville and Buffalo at home to start the season. You have already been on record saying that you like this Dolphins team better than Buffalo. We look at what's going on with Jacksonville. I like them okay. I still like the Dolphins better. Then week 3, Seattle, Tennessee, New England. And here's the key to all of this. Last undefeated team, you're also getting a team with a week 6 bye. So you actually are kind of getting a free win in this bet. Come out of the bye with Indy and Arizona. You're looking at the first like super, super real tough, hard test here, Stephen, on the road at Buffalo in week 9. I'm not saying the Dolphins are going to be 8-0 that or 7-0 it would be because with the bye there in week 6. I'm not saying that. What I am saying though is there is a world that exists if they get past those first 2 games that they really and truly are undefeated until they play Buffalo there in week 9 on the road, especially getting the free week there in week 6.
So if you like that, you probably think they're also a decent candidate to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. And if you like that, you have to eventually think that they're probably a decent candidate to make a run to maybe get to the Super Bowl in the AFC. And if I look at the board, Matt, I think if we're focused on potential ceiling outcomes here, I think I'd rather have the Dolphins at 25-1 than the Ravens at 10-1. I think I'd rather have the Dolphins at 25-1 than the Bills at 15-1, the Bengals at 15-1, the Texans at 16-1, the Jets at 22-1. Even though I'm pretty bullish on the Jets, that's for regular season. I'm not sure about playoffs yet with them. So on one hand, I think the ceiling for the Dolphins, if they stay healthy, is astronomical because of just how explosive that offense is. My hesitancy is, are they the Cowboys of the AFC, Matt? Because if you just look at their schedule game by game last year, whenever they faced a big test against a playoff caliber team, they were not the same team. They lost a lot of those games. And I'm not passing judgment on what they were the last couple of weeks in the wild card game and crazy cold conditions. They were so injured at the end of last year. You cannot draw any conclusions about what they are at that point when they're healthy. So I am still, but there were other games earlier in the year where they struggled against quality opponents as well.
So I don't like them necessarily for the number 1 overall seed, mainly because of the back end of the schedule, which I think is going to come up and kind of bite them in the ass, which is why I'm not jumping up and down to bet even over the win total in all of this, because I think they could be the last undefeated team, Stephen, while also then going on a really bad streak as well, because you start there in week 13 where it's a road game at Green Bay on Thanksgiving, which that's when the weather starts to get bad. That's an outdoor game for this Miami team in bad weather starting week 13. Then it's the Jets. Then it's the Texans on the road. Then it's the Niners. Then it's back-to-back roadies to end the season at Cleveland, at New York, where we know the weather is going to be bad and cold and nasty in week 17 and week 18. So for me, I like them much, much better at the beginning of the season than I like them at the end of the season. So it's kind of one of those deals for me where I'm bullish early and bearish late. And if they happen to hit that ceiling and go into those games favored, then so be it. But I'm gonna pump the brakes kind of on getting them to the number 1 seed.
So overall for me, Matt, kind of big picture,
the
2 big concerns I had about trying to decide if I'm going to pull the trigger on some of these team ceiling outcomes with the Dolphins were in the trenches, the offensive line, the defensive line. The defensive line for me, despite their, aggregate rankings, if you look at some of the analytics sites that are out there, you still have a couple of guys who had double-digit sacks last year, and you still have a unit that was top 10 in pass rush win rate. And if healthy, I think they have plenty of guys there. We've already discussed that. Plenty of guys left, even though they lost Wilkins and Van Ginkel. The offensive line, I think I can make a valid excuse there, even though they're a consensus below-average offensive line. That is highly mitigated by the fact that Tua was number 1 in the league last year, snap to throw. Only 2.36 seconds on average for Tua from snap to throw. So by design, Mike McDaniel is mitigating this offensive line. So I just think we got a really smart coaching staff here with a ton of talented players. It is a gauntlet to get through the AFC in this era, but you're also getting that baked into the price, and it's a pretty attractive price to me.
Yeah, I listen. If you like Tua or not, you can't argue with the production. Great running back room, great receiver room. You add Fuller, which now makes his secondary one of the very best in the league. I like the coaching staff as well with you. Sure, there are some shaky spots on that offensive line, but as you mentioned, play calling has been utilized to kind of mitigate the problems that you have there in the interior part of that offensive line. I just like a ton about this team. If it wasn't for that back end of the schedule, this would be a team that I'd be much, much, much higher on than I currently am. But I really do like that last undefeated team market because they can get past Buffalo at home. Seattle, Tennessee, New England, by Indianapolis, Arizona. You could be heading into week 9, an undefeated 7-0 team against Buffalo on the road right there. So I think that's an interesting bet when it's all said and done. Guys, every single... Oh, you got something else, Stephen?
Yeah, just one last note on the schedule.
Yep.
You're getting a cheaper price on over 9.5 right now than you are on the Jets as we record this at the end of July. And that 9.5, if you look at the current spreads across the board, they have 6 games they're supposed to win, favorites by 3 points or more, 8 games that are toss-ups. So if they do what they're supposed to do in the games they're supposed to win and only get half of those toss-up games, you're getting to 10 wins. And if you're a little bit more bullish on them, then they should sail over that 9.5.
I would almost be looking at the Dolphins as an alt over team as opposed to even betting their typical win total, because that's the thing. It's like they're either going to be much better than we think, or the offensive line woes and whatever and all stuff like that is going to hurt them, and then they're not even going to get to the 10, right? Like it's kind of like this is a 12-win, 13-win team, or it's probably like a 8-9 win team in my opinion. But I tend to lean towards the former as opposed to the latter, and do like this Dolphins team a decent amount. Guys, everything we do absolutely free. We're going to preview each and every NFL team, counting it down to getting things going here. Can't wait to get football back in our lives. Everything we do free. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, give us a like. Let us know, what do you think of the Dolphins this season? Is there any other bet that you want to be looking at when it comes to this Miami Dolphins squad as well? For Stephen, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Dolphins bets.